One. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. My name is David Streggy, and here in the room with me, I have director James Balsamo with me. Hello, how are you doing?
Hey everybody, James Balsamo here. Super excited to be talking to another human in this quarantine apocalypse nightmare. You know, that seems something out of a Bruno Mattei movie. It's a boring apocalypse. Who would have thought, right?
Right. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the independent film industry, and where you're from, first of all.
I'm originally from Queens, New York. You know, born and raised Queens guy. Italian tough guy. Hey, and I always wanted to be in horror movies at 8. I saw Friday the 13th Part 3 with my dad on Channel 11, and they used to play all these old horror movies, and I was like, I want to be the guy behind the mask, the man behind the mask, as Alice Cooper sings so eloquently. And so I started going to acting schools at 8, and I did acting. I studied at Lee Strasberg and all these prestigious. Did you ever see the movie Fame? I went to that high school. They only take a number of kids from auditioning, and I got into that school. So, I had a little bit of talent. Not a big deal,
Okay.
but I always wanted to be in horror movies, and I acted all the way up until college, and I didn't know anybody that made a horror movie, and I did all these auditions. There was no horror movies, and that's all what I always wanted to do. So I was working at a comic book store, and somebody goes, "Hey, Trauma in Manhattan has an internship. They hire basically any schmuck." So I left my comic book job to intern for Trauma, and that's how it all started. I got all these movies because they don't pay you. I took out Lloyd Kaufman's Garbage and Michael Herz's Garbage for about a year, and they pay you in DVDs. And after watching about 7,000 Trauma movies, I was like, oh, I could do this. So I picked up a camera. I met Debbie Rochon through Trauma, and I got Lloyd to do a cameo in my first movie, and Debbie, and I hired Lynn Lowry, and then I went to film school, and then I was like, oh, you need a name to sell a movie, so I got my favorite band. I got the lead singer of Guar, Dave Brockie, to do a cameo, and that was it. The movie got picked up for worldwide distribution all over cable in U.S., and I've been making movies ever since.
Okay. Well, I figured I'd start to ask you about some of your acting, and it kind of goes back to if I remember correctly, to Trauma. So glad you started to talk about that. So apparently you were in the macabre pair of shorts. How was that for
Yeah.
you?
Well, I played the Toxic Avenger in like 6 DVD intros. So the only part of Macabre Pair of Shorts I'm in is after they signed a distro deal with Troma. Lloyd does like an intro, and he's like, "Here's Macabre Pair of Shorts," and I'm the dancing Toxie. So that's my involvement with Macabre Pair of Shorts. I'm in a few other ones. They did a promo for Poultrygeist with me as Toxie, and I
Okay.
did a commercial with Tiffany Shepis as Toxie. I've done some stuff as
Okay.
Toxie. So those are my involvements with Tron movies. And then I even did a Barnes and Noble autograph signing with Lloyd dressed as Toxie. And then I did a promo party for the Poultrygeist. Yeah, I was the guy. I was the Toxie. Whenever you see furry Italian four-arm Toxie, that's how you know it's me.
So after that, you ended up somehow in the movie The Emperor's Club, did you not, as a student?
So actually, that was a thing I did way before I was in Troma. I think I was like 13. I was one of the students in the Emperor's Club.
Okay.
Yeah. So my story from that is, I think that was like my first major motion picture, um, and Kevin Kline was like 3 hours late to set. So, like being a little kid and a professionalist as a child, I was like really upset that like for my first movie, Kevin Kline showed up like 3 hours late. So we're on set. Kevin Kline finally gets to set, and it's like a lunchroom full of kids, and I flip off Kevin Kline as a 13-year-old New Yorker, and he's like, "That little kid just flipped me off," but they were already like so late, like nothing happened to me. Like it was just like, oh, all right, I guess we'll let that little kid flip off Kevin Kline, and that was me. That was for being late.
So ultimately, after that, you were in Rock and Roll Space Patrol. Action is Go.
Yeah,
Has,
that's another trauma one where they like, had me dance around as Toxie, and it was funny. There was like another intern that they had wear an alien mask for the cover because Troma's a distribution company that does that. They pick up other films, and then the
yeah,
film doesn't have a movie poster sometimes, so they just shoot their own poster. You know what I mean? They
and it
had
looks like
another girl that worked there in like a bikini top or something like that, and then like another intern wear an
okay.
alien mask, and boom, that's the cover of Rock and Roll Space Patrol.
And it looked like Coon's Night of the Bandits of the Night was another one that you
Yeah.
you ended up in as Toxie.
So that's funny because they recently put that movie on Amazon Prime, and so they just look for actors to advertise. So I'm advertised in Coon's Night of the Bandits, and I'm only in the Trauma DVD intro, which they cut out of the Amazon thing. So they advertise me in that movie, and I'm not even in the Amazon Prime version.
Okay. After that, you were in an episode of Law and Order Special Victims Unit.
I did an episode with Jerry Lewis, which was really cool. Jerry Lewis pushes a guy onto a train platform, and they have a solo shot of me, waiting for the train, and then I see the guy get murdered. It's pretty cool. You can just Google it. I'm young. I don't have facial hair, but it's cool. I'm in an episode of Law and Order with Jerry Lewis.
Nice.
Yeah.
So after that, you were a club dancer in We Own the Night.
I was. I have a funny story from that too. So I got two stories from that. I did 2 or 3 days on that movie,
Okay.
and the first day that I was on it, I think I was like 19 in that movie, and they gave us club beer. But a movie trick to keep a head on a beer is that they put soap in the cup. So they're like, "Don't drink the beer," and I'm like 19. I'm like, "I'm drinking this beer." So I'm drinking soapy beer, and when walking back to set, I'm not paying attention because I just started drinking soapy beer. So I literally almost knock over Mark Wahlberg walking back to one. Like Mark Wahlberg is like a solid foot shorter than me. Really super nice guy. But I like stop on a dime like this close to his face. And then I look up and it's Mark Wahlberg. And I'm like, oh my God, I just knocked over potentially Mark Wahlberg. And I was like, I'm so sorry. He's like, no, it's cool, man. It's cool. Like super nice guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
And after We Own the Night, you were in the Nanny Diaries as a graduating student.
I was. They sat me like 2 seats away from Alicia Keys. Originally, they had sat me right next to Alicia Keys, and then I guess I was too handsome for the frame, so they moved me over a seat. So I think you could see like the side of my ear in Alicia Keys' graduation scene while Scarlett Johansson is like giving this speech.
Nice. So after the Nanny Diaries experience, you were on Enchanted as a pedestrian.
I was, yeah. I had a close up in that got cut from the film, and then they did like a behind the scenes. I think for Disney also that like never made it to air. So I was a little bummed about that, but it was cool. I think I did 3 days on that movie. James Marsden is like fighting an imaginary dragon while he's like running on top of a bus. Like like the money they spent for that movie is crazy. They like shut down time. Like you can't shut down Times Square, so they basically just like roped off areas of Times Square while it was like super busy rush hour. You know what I mean? So crazy.
Alrighty, so this is where we get into your first feature that you did called Hack Job, which you somewhat mentioned before. But why don't you tell me how you got involved with that project to begin with, and how it came together?
Sure. So, Hack Job was my first completed feature film. Like I said, when I started interning for Troma, I started making a movie called The Mark with Lloyd Kaufman, Lynn Lowry, and Debbie Rashan. But I never finished it. So I was in film school, and then I got into a band that was like a Guar knockoff, and we all wore costumes. And I really wanted to play music, so I was torn between being a filmmaker and making music. So I just I put the film on hold because I had made a solid 40 minutes, and it's like if you make anything over 40, that's technically a feature. So I was like, yeah, I did it. I made a feature. I'm going to be in this band, and of course, the band got tired of wearing costumes, so they split up. And then I was in a bunch of other bands, and then it took 7 years for me to be like, you know what, I'm going to make a real feature film. And so I took that 40 minutes, and I was like, if I film the rest of 90 minutes, I could make a feature film. And that's how Hack Job happened. And so I was working with another filmmaker at the time. We were doing two films,
Okay.
which was a movie that I produced called Bloody Christmas, which had Dretta from Demons in it,
Mm-hmm.
and Steve Montague, who's the fat guy from Roadhouse, where he goes, "A bear fell on me." He plays like a deranged Santa Claus who's actually like a hero who fights Krampus. It's crazy. So we were doing this movie at the same time. I had done all the effects for Bloody Christmas, and we were going to swap cameos so we could make two movies that had more cameos in them. So I got Lloyd Kaufman to do a cameo in Bloody Christmas, and then the other filmmaker was going to get me Dretta from Demons.
Okay.
I finish Hack Job before Bloody Christmas. Like the movie's done. So I
Mm-hmm.
go, okay, it's time for you to give me the footage. And the filmmaker goes, no, I'm not going to give it to you. After I'd already done all the makeup for free for Bloody Christmas, and he totally just, screwed me over. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go big then. Like, it's cool. Don't worry about it. That's the kind of guy I am. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
you can't let people get you down. You
No.
gotta go big, or you gotta go home. So I ended up getting Guar in the movie. I got Dave Brockie. He came
Mm-hmm.
down from Richmond, Virginia, to New York to do a cameo for a day, and I even put the filmmaker that had screwed me over in a scene with him, because that's the kind of guy I am. You know what I mean? It was like, not only is that fine that you screwed me over after I did all this makeup for free for you and production design and filmed part of the movie and like taught him how to edit. I was like, yeah, come on down. You know what I mean? Because you got to kill people with kindness. So
Now, did you end up
that,
killing him in the movie?
yeah, exactly. So me getting Guar in the movie and hiring Jeff Zorno to do the cover, because the cover is incredible. Jeff Zorno, he does the Godzilla comics, and he does like a lot of T-shirts for Fright Rags. Like I went to Boston to go to Rock and Shock just to meet Jeff Zorno, to have him do the movie cover. I knew he was the artist that I wanted, and I've been working with Jeff Zorno for 10 years since then. So Jeff does a lot of my movie covers. But anyway, me getting Guar in the movie after that guy screwed me over, and having Jeff Zorno do the cover is what got me worldwide distribution. And then, if he wouldn't have screwed me over and just gave me the cameo, I might have never had a successful movie right out of the gates. You know what I mean?
Right.
Everything happens for a reason. I'm a strong believer in that. You know what I mean? You can't let people who hurt you get you down. You know what I mean? Because it was a Fredo moment for me. You know what I mean? Like he betrayed me to my face. So, and
Yeah.
it's funny. He
And
still calls me from time and time again. It's like, oh, we should make another movie. It's like, what? What?
It kind of reminds me of some people that I've worked with in the past.
Yeah.
I think everyone goes through a moment in their career, whether you're an actor or a director or a producer. So,
Yeah. I mean,
but
that's like, but my point is, you can't let that get you down.
no,
You know what I mean?
no.
You got to swing for the fences always.
So, where did you film Hack Job? Did you film it in New York?
I did. I filmed it in Manhattan, and I was living in Long Island, New York at the time. So it's half Manhattan, half Long Island,
Okay.
and Los Angeles. Actually, I flew out to film with Lynn Lowry at her home in the Valley in Los Angeles, and now I live in LA. So, but was that was about a decade ago.
Interesting. So, if there were any scene that you could take from this film, besides the Guar moment,
Uh,
um, uh, what scene would you say would be your favorite from Hack Job?
Um. Okay, so it's an anthology hack job. You know, it's got three separate stories in it. So the
Mhm.
first story is about mummies that are awakened by Nazis. It's
Okay.
called Tomb of the SS,
Okay.
and we had built this set to look like, a mummy's tomb, and it was in like a small room in my old partner's garage, and it was
Okay.
like filled with spray paint. So we were basically like inhaling all of this spray paint with like cheesy mummy brick walls, and I wrapped some of my friends in it wasn't toilet paper, it was actually a plaster. I'd done a body cast and I got my friend stuck in plaster. Like, I used too many wraps. So I had to have my dad help cut him out. so, so we had made this full body cast so we could blow it up in a sump. So
Okay.
I had one of those like firework balls with
I
this
suppose
like
that's
full
not
body.
any worse. I suppose that's not any worse than I did one year when I was a mummy one year, where I took a full gray sweatshirt, sweatpants, and then just wrapped white stuff around with like spray whatever, and then I just walked like Carcaricus, the 3,000-year-old mummy from like the original mummy, and then it was crazy because the shit just kept coming unwrapped as I was going around. So, but each mummy character is a little bit different. So,
Yeah,
but in any case, moving on to I Spill Your Guts was your second feature, correct?
it was. Yeah.
How did you get involved with that project?
Okay, so after Hack Job came out, it came out through worldwide distribution, and now I'm a 25-year-old guy, never made a movie before, and the film, like I said, it was on cable all over the U.S. and Canada, but it was also pirated across the world next to titles like Taken. So Hack Job came out, and it was like, watch Hack Job or Taken. So people thought this was like a Hollywood movie. You know what I mean? But meanwhile, it was made from when I was 19 to 25, and on a shoestring budget. And so people hated this movie publicly on the internet because it had such a wide appeal. You know what I mean? It had a cool cover, and then they were like, "What that?" Guar's in it. They're like, "What the hell is this garbage?" And so people hated not only Hack Job, but they hated me. They were like, James Balsamo should never pick up a camera. Like, really, the internet is so vicious now, but in like the early 2000s, it was just starting to become venomous. It was growing in its evil. Now it's in one of its purest forms. But that really drove me to make a serious horror film. So I Spill Your Guts was like me showing the world, like, hey, I went to film school and I love movies. Like, I actually can make a movie. Hack Job was I could make a good movie. Hack Job was I could just make a movie.
Hmm.
So now that I've proven to people that I could make a movie and it could be, shown all over the world, I Spill Your Guts was I can make a good movie. You know what I mean? So that's what it was. And people liked I Spill Your Guts enough where they were like, oh, actually, James isn't such a bad filmmaker. Maybe he does know how to make a movie. And that had Andrew WK gets his head split in half in that. And Dave Brocky came back from that. Guar and Ghoul are in that together. So if you've ever seen Guar and Ghoul on tour, it's because of me and Hackjob. So I always thought that was cool. I gave Ghoul's contact directly to Dave Brocky on set of Hackjob. And then like 6 months later, I saw that they were on tour. So they totally didn't even tell me. Neither one of them were like, oh, yeah, thanks for hooking us up, James. And so then actually when Hackjob came out, I kind of called them out on that because I was like at an event called a Crackathon, which is an art gallery thing in New York, and I was like, hey, I hooked you guys up. Do you ever hear of a finder's fee or you know what I mean? Something like that. And so they were like, oh, you could come on tour and sell the movie with us because you brought us together. And so I did one night with them in New York where I was selling Hackjob. And then they were like, yeah, I don't think it's going to work out.
Yeah, well, at least you gave it a shot.
Right, exactly. So any chance I get to say, if you've ever seen Guar and Ghoul, you're welcome. That's but yeah, I Spill Your Guts was a serious attempt at making a slasher film. It's still the only serious horror film I've done to date. It seems like every time I set out to make a serious movie, the comedy just kind of like sweeps in. You know what I mean? It just overtakes.
Well, where did you film I Spill Your Guts? Still in New York at this point in time?
Yeah, I Spill Your Guts was mostly all Manhattan, New York City. That's really the aesthetic of it. I've been honored by people saying that I Spill Your Guts is like a really Manhattan-based horror film. You know, like William Lustig's Maniac. Like it's one of those films that really capture the essence of being a New Yorker.
Okay. If there was a certain scene that you wanted to take from I Spill Your Guts as a favorite scene that you filmed, what would it be?
So there's a scene where we drop a car on a guy, and I had made a friend that owned a tow truck junkyard company, and he gave us a car and a forklift. So we had an actor underneath like a real car, like lifted up with a forklift, for the end with the his guts spilled. So if you haven't seen it yet, go see I Spill Your Guts. Go to acidbathproductions.com, or you get it in Walmart, Best Buy, Barnes & Noble.
Nice.
Yeah, I Spill Your Guts.
Alrighty. After I Spill Your Guts, you went on to act in a movie called Jack O Slasher.
Jack O Slasher, yeah. So this actress that was in Hackjob, Jennifer Valdez, she actually just wrote a Facebook post about this yesterday. It was funny. It's been 9 years since we filmed Hackjob, and that movie being on set with Dave Brocky inspired her to make her own horror film, which was Jack O Slasher. So I play like the character that I've been typecasted in for the last 10 years. It's like the guy that tries to bang your girlfriend and gets killed. So that's kind of the character I play. And then I helped. I did some boom work on that film also. But yeah, it was indie horror. I think I was like 26. I love movies. I like to help and stuff. So
Definitely.
and Jen's great. So I've been friends with Jen a long time since then.
And where was that film filmed? It was it filmed in New York?
It was filmed in Long Island. I think it was called Schmidt's like haunted farm or something like that. There was like a cornfield. Yeah.
And how long was the
cornfield and a haunted house?
how long was the shoot?
For me, I think I was there like 3 or 4 days. I think it was like 2 weeks. It was pretty cool. This haunted house like gave her carte blanche to like go crazy, and
Nice.
they had trailers. It was nice because of like the people that did their makeup in the haunted house. The guy had already bought trailers, so like people had trailers to do their makeup in, and
Nice.
it's like a nice feel for a low budget. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So ultimately, after Jacko Slasher, you went and starred in well, you starred in a small segment for Terratelli somewhere in there too.
Yeah,
Uh,
so Telly was my first international feature. It was directed by this guy named Nick Box, and
mhm.
I had done just a quick cameo of this guy named Rupert Wanker, and it was for this fake product called Wanker Away, where Wanker, it's like a chode, like a a jerk off. So
Okay. Moving on to well, and you already somewhat talked about Bloody Christmas. So uh, how long was the shoot for Bloody Christmas?
Bloody Christmas was a whole feature. It was about 3 months. Uh, so I played like a sleazy director of like a kids TV show, and then there's a scene where this Santa Claus is like doing a scene with these kids, and then the Santa Claus has like a dream sequence where he kills all the kids, and so all the dead kids are like falling on top of me, and they actually used that clip on MTV2. So R.A. the Rugged Man is the rapper is in the film. I was also in a music video for him from my partner at the time. He was like really good friends with him. It was cool. We got to hang out at his place. He really knows horror movies and stuff. So RA's talking about the movie, and then they use this clip of me on MTV2 where all these dead kids are like falling on top of me. I'm like, dead kids.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now where was Bloody Christmas entirely filmed? Was
That
it in
was
New York?
that was Long Island, New York. Yeah.
Okay. And let's see. Let's see. After Bloody Christmas, you went and did your next feature called Cool as Hell. How was
Yeah.
that project for you?
It was great. Cool as Hell is probably one of my biggest commercial successes. Tom Savini's in it. David Naughton from American Werewolf in London. Uh, so yeah, Cool as Hell was like I went back to horror comedy, and I play a guy who accidentally befriends a demon, and all these zombies come out of hell. It's pretty crazy. I just did a sequel to it, so it was a big commercial success. People love that movie. They say it's one of my favorites. That's why I did a sequel to it. So it was all shot in New York, and the cinematographer was the guitar player from Suffocation, uh, guy. So Frank Mullen and I became friends on I Spill Your Guts, and Frank Mullen just retired from being the singer of Suffocation, his original singer. He's famous for doing the chop.
Okay.
Um, Frank Mullen actually invented the death growl. So if you've ever heard a death metal singer go like, "Brrr," that's all Frank. Frank started that. So
Nice.
so Frank's guitar player was like into cameras, and he was like, "Oh, a guy wants to shoot your next movie," and I was like, "Yeah, okay."
Nice.
So for that movie, um, I was torn between doing my own film or being in the Class of Nukem High remake, which was a Trauma movie. And
Hmm.
so Trauma, in Class of Nukem High, they have all these characters called the Cretans, where they look like crazy punk characters. So I had dyed my hair uh, cheetah, like the sides were cheetah, and then I dyed the top blonde, and I was really trying to be a Cretan, and it didn't work out. But I had this crazy look, so that was the look I had ended up keeping for Cool as Hell. So I had this cheetah hair, and a Hawaiian shirt. And so we were filming with all these like death metal legend bands while I had cheetah hair. And so I'm like backstage at the Gramercy in New York City, like filming with Obituary.
Okay.
And like all these like metalheads with like long black hair are like, why is the dude with cheetah hair in a Hawaiian shirt backstage and, and we're out here, you know?
Well, even I got into Obituary at one point in time. So,
Yeah.
but ultimately, now you cast them or one of them in Cool as Hell.
Yeah, so the guitar player from Obituary does a cameo with the lead singer of Decrepit Birth.
Okay.
They play
And
homeless guys who like kind of harass me. So yeah, we filmed outside the Gramercy in New York. So like right after their set, so we were hanging out, drinking beers with Obituary, and then we went out and well, like I said, I was getting all these looks from all these metalheads, like, what's with the cheetah-haired guy in the Hawaiian shirt?
now, ultimately, if there were one scene that you would take from this movie that you would take to your grave, what would it be?
Probably the demon sex scene. So I had painted two people, one red and the woman red and the guy green, like a full body demon sex scene. I don't think I've seen that in a movie still.
Okay. Before we move, now your production company goes by the name of Acid Bath Productions. How did you come up with that?
Yeah. So I was making short films under Tortured Soul Productions,
Okay.
and the name just wasn't great. I had a girlfriend at the time. She was like, "You got to change that name." And so I was watching an Italian horror film called Beyond the Darkness
Okay.
about ancestral. Have you seen it? It's
Yeah.
about the ancestral brother and sister, and the sister's jealous, and she puts the girls in the acid bath.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, acid bath. That's pretty cool." And so that was it. That's how it became Acid Bath. And I had actually had Sammy from the band Acid Bath in one of my films. Like the lead singer of Goat was in Bite School. And then when they came back around, I got Sammy to do a cameo. So I've actually had Acid Bath in an Acid Bath Productions film.
Hey, how many directors can say that?
Yeah, exactly.
But in any case, moving on, after Cool as Hell, you were in a movie called Sheriff Tom versus the Zombies. How was that for you?
I was. So there was a New Jersey filmmaker that I was frenemies with, and he had asked me to do this cameo. I went out to New Jersey to do it. It was like a zombie film, um, but it was like everything that I had done. This filmmaker just was copying it. You know what I mean? Like I wrote, I had an author novelize my film, I Spill Your Guts. He then went to that author and was like, "Hey, can you novelize all of my movies?" You know what I mean? So I just got tired of having that guy rip me off. So I called him out at a convention one time, and his girlfriend was the one that was defending him. She goes, "Hey, isn't imitation the strongest form of flattery?" And I was like, "That's it." So, you know what I mean? After being frenemies with the guy for so long, I just kind of was like, "Yeah, you're done. That's it." You know what I mean?
I hear you on that. Every director has to find their own way.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I get that I'm a go-getter, you know what I mean? And I paved the way for a lot of people, but if you're just like
How
stuck in
long?
your own feet in my footsteps, it's like, and you're right behind me, I can't have that. You know what I mean? You do you. You let me do me and you do you.
After Sheriff Tom versus the Zombies, you went into a production called Blood Slaughter Massacre.
I did, yeah, this great director, good friend of mine, Manny Serrano, did this movie, Blood Slaughter Massacre, which is a slasher film, and I just have a quick cameo in it. I play a cameraman, and I was like, "Can my name be Kenny?" as a Scream homage because I love Scream. So,
Okay. How long was that shoot for you?
I did a day on that. You know what I
Okay.
mean? I do a lot of these day cameos, so you know what I mean?
Then of course you ended up having like one or two of your trailers and Trash-tastic.
Yeah, I think 3 or 4. It's funny because that name, it's a good title. It comes up all the time. People are like, "Oh, tell me about Trash Tastic," and it's a trailer film. So
Moving on to where you were an angry filmmaker in Movie Night.
yeah, so this young filmmaker at the time, I think he was like 16. His name is Anthony Curry, Anthony Edward Curry, real sweet kid. Um, was friends with Adam Albrandt, who directed The Crossbearer. He was a friend of mine, and Adam took Anthony under his wing, and they were like, "Oh, can you do a cameo in Anthony's first movie?" And I think we were at a Chiller Theater convention in New Jersey, and Frank Mullen was with me signing autographs at my table from Suffocation. And so Frank and I, we do like a cameo convention thing. So
Okay,
that's
cool.
yeah.
Moving on to where you acted in Brad Twigg's movie Ghoulish Tales. How was that for you?
Yeah, Ghoulish Tales was fun. I did that cameo while I was filming Brad's cameo in Killer Waves.
Okay.
So, you know, uh, I Brad is a cool cat because he started out, coming to conventions after I'd already made a few films, and now I think Brad's made a few of his own films. I know I've been in 2 or 3 of them,
Hmm.
and then Brad's gone on to direct some cool stuff. And he's another guy that he loves horror movies, and I always like working with Brad because he's a guy that gets the genre. He loves horror. He loves making films. He knows what he wants, and I like working with Brad. He's a cool guy.
Nice. Now, where was that filmed? Do you know?
Uh, Somewhere in Virginia. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
Alrighty. Um,
think when I
After.
did
Oh, yeah. Go
no,
ahead.
go ahead. I was gonna say I think when I did that movie, I was on my way to shoot a cameo in The Shark Exorcist uh,
Okay.
in Tennessee. So I went out to Tennessee, and then along the way, I think I stopped at Brad's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, I was going to ask about Shark Exorcist after a couple other films. So, Catch of the Day was another one of your directed films. How was going into that project?
Yeah, it was great. Jason Mewes, Jay and Silent Bob, and Tony Todd, Candyman, Jake the Snake Roberts, Jimmy Duvall from Independence Day, Frank the Bunny from Donnie Darko, and John Beekler, creator of the Ghoulies and director of Friday the 13th Part 7, and Kevin Van Hendrick from Basket Case, you know. So
Nice.
really, really cool cast, and so that was my attempt at trying something slightly different than horror. It was a buddy cop comedy with mutant fish people, and so uh, I'm doing a sequel to that now. That should be coming out next week, actually.
Nice.
Yeah,
And now, were you still filming in New York at this time?
I was. Yeah, and my buddy Joe, who had that junkyard, ran a forklift through a pickup truck that he was like, it was like a brand new pickup truck that he was going to junk, but he like ran a forklift through it for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Uh, so, if there were a moment that you would be able to take from this film, what would be that moment?
There's a wedding scene in there where a monster hand comes out of a cake, just the ridiculousness of that photo, of like a wedding photo with the monster hand. Because, if you do any kind of puppet work, there's always a person underneath. So just the ridiculousness of having my friend in the monster hand coming out of a wedding cake. You know what I mean? Kids are starving in Ethiopia, and we're putting monster hands through cake. So,
Okay.
God bless America.
Okay, cool. Moving on to MILFs versus Zombies.
Yeah.
You were part of that cast. How was working on that set?
Oh, yeah, it was great. It was another Brad Twigg movie, and they had hired me to come out, and I stayed out in Virginia for a few days. I stayed with the producer, and it was cool because I'd already made a few movies by then, and I'd done a few autograph signings, so people were excited that I was like in the cast. It was nice. It was like, oh, cool. I'm the big fish here. That's rad. Yeah, I love Brad. So it was fun. I do a scene where I got a few stories from this. So I have a sex scene with two incestual sisters, and then I get handcuffed, and a zombie comes in and bites me on the ass. And so a few months later, at another a Monster Mania convention in Virginia, I think it was Virginia, or I don't know. I travel, I forget. I had done a show, and Courtney Gaines from uh, Children of the Corn is there, and I'm in my underwear with some zombie makeup, filming in this hotel, and Courtney Gaines is like, acting, am I right? So even better that I'm still in my underwear with zombie makeup on, with handcuffs on, and they're like, okay, we want to do the Flyboy Dawn of the Dead scene where the elevator opens up and you come out of the elevator. And so there is a horror convention going on. So I'm in my underwear, and the elevator doesn't just stay open, it actually goes down, and it fills with people while I'm in my underwear and zombie makeup. And all these people are like, oh, I want to party with this guy.
uh, Now, you slightly mentioned this a little bit before Shark Exorcist. How did you get involved with that particular film?
So I've been friends with Donald Farmer, director of Cannibal Hookers, and I'm in the remake of that for a long time. And so Donald was in a few of my films from I Spill Your Guts, which was 2012. And he was talking about making this movie since before I'd even asked him to do a cameo in that. So I think I started talking to Donald in like 2010, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to do this movie, Shark Exorcist. So years later, when he actually was doing Shark Exorcist, I was like, Donald, you got to put me in this movie. I love that title. It's yeah, it was a big movie. It's nice because I love that title, and it was a fun scene. I'm like, I'm a jogger, and I see a body, and he let me ad lib some lines. I throw up in the water. He had got this pea soup, and then I see the body, and I'm like, I barf, and I'm like, yeah, I'd still fuck her.
Moving on to another film that you directed called Bite School. How was going into that project for you?
Bite School was cool because I had done something different with Catch of the Day, which was a buddy cop eating fish people movie. So I kind of wanted to get back to horror basics, and that's why I did a vampire movie, you know. And that had the Herschel Gordon Lewis in it, the Godfather of Gore, and Ron Jeremy, Butch Patrick, Eddie Munster from the Munsters. And so Bite School was a big commercial success for me. It was in Playboy magazine, and it was on IMDb's top 10 horror movies of 2015. So I'm actually working on
Bite
the sequel of that now. What did you say?
Yeah, Bite School is actually how I first heard of you, believe it or not. So somebody posted about it, and then I went and bought it, and then I went and found some more films of yours, and then I said, fuck it, I'll buy the rest of them.
Oh,
So,
cool, thanks, man.
but
Appreciate that.
so where did you film Bite School in New York? No.
Bite School was New York. Yeah, I'd actually filmed it in my old college, Five Towns College, and then when they found out we had like naked girls running around the school, they like kicked us out. They were like, "You are banned." So
So how long before Herschel Gordon Lewis's passing was this film? I know he passed away.
I think it was like a year. I think it was like a year and a half, maybe. Yeah, it
Because
was tragic. I
I know
mean,
he was
he was.
making that Blood Mania at the time, but
Yeah.
it's tragic. But I know that it must feel nice to have him in one of your films.
Oh yeah. I mean, for me, I think film immortalizes you. You know what I mean? So Herschel will live on in Bite School forever, which is really cool. So you know what I mean? I was trying to get Herschel uh, in a movie for probably about 7 years. And so when it actually happened, we had done a convention together in Florida, and we had done a panel together, and I had got him to sing like, one of the old theme songs from his movie, and we really connected. And I asked him to do a cameo, and all he had asked me for was a chocolate milk. And yeah, he was like, "You are a sweet." I got him the chocolate milk, and he was like, "You are a sweet man."
Nice. So moving on. If there was one scene that you could take from Bite School, what would it be?
It would definitely be the scene I did with Herschel Gordon Lewis. I mean, just that moment for me was incredible. You know what I mean? It was like I was a guest at a convention with Herschel Gordon Lewis and John Waters, and I got Herschel to do this cameo, and I was just ecstatic. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Uh, so after Bite School, you were in a short film called Homer.
I was, yeah. This this guy, I think I met him on another movie set. Told me they were doing. It's a shame about this Homer because it was one of those scary stories inspired films, and they had made it before the Guillermo del Toro movie was like even announced. So they had like done this whole short film on the Scarecrow, like based off of the Scarecrow, and then they were going to put it in something else. But then Del Toro announced, they actually had the real rights to scary stories, and that kind of like destroyed the whole thing. So they had spent money. They spent money on me, and they spent money on a cast and crew, and they put everybody up in hotels, and they were trying to do something, and then Del Toro kind of pulled the rug out from under them. You know what I mean? With millions, so that kind of put Homer dead in the water. It's a nice short. The Scarecrow's fun. It's based on the Scarecrow story, so. I get killed by this scarecrow, I think with beans or something like that. So I had all these beans in my mouth, and I think that was filmed in Connecticut or something, if I remember, or Staten Island, somewhere like that.
Okay. Moving after that, you somewhat mentioned this film, but this is another film that you directed called Killer Waves. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that project?
Yeah, so Killer Waves, I found out a film school buddy of mine. I was living in New York, moved out to California, and I'd always wanted to go out to California since I took a trip when I was 19. I took a trip out to California, and I was like, that is where I want to live. So I found out my buddy was living in Cali, and I stayed on his couch for 2 weeks, and I started making this movie. I had hired all these actors from New York, like digitally. You know what I mean? I didn't meet like any of these people, and so after working with me for like 3 days, all of the actors quit. Like they had heard about me, you know what I mean? They were like, "Oh, this guy films movies, and all of his stuff is in Walmart and Best Buy." Like, yeah, I want to be in a movie. And these actors they didn't realize it was just me with a camera. You know what I mean? Like they
Yeah.
thought it was like a Hollywood production, and I tried to tell them like it will be in Walmart, but I do everything. You know what I mean? I shoot, edit, direct. Like it is a one man show. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so they
Yeah.
thought there was going to be craft service and like, $100 million lights. And so when they saw it was just me, they were like, forget this guy. And so they all quit. And I had, 3 days of footage of all these actors and then like no movie to make. So I had to go back to New York and refilm all this stuff to make the footage with these actors work. And then the movie came out and all these actors were like, "Hey, can we be in your next movie?" It's like, people, man, come on. It's like everybody, they want blood
It's
from
like,
a stone.
do your research, people.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I try to tell them right out of the gate. You know what I mean. This movie will be worldwide distributed. I have the same distributor as Fox. You know what I mean? Like the people that put out It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Family Guy put out my stuff, so it'll be in Walmart and Best Buy. But it is me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Uh, Sometimes the stuff goes over people's heads, and then of course there are regrets later. So
Yeah. No, yeah, I've seen that more often than not. That's why I said you always got to be friendly. You know what I mean? Because there people love to come back. They love to come back.
so after that,
Stephen King, sometimes they come back. It's not true. They always come back.
so now Killer Waves, that was filmed in New York as well.
Well, it was filmed. I filmed about 2 weeks in Los Angeles, so I had
Okay.
some nice long Los Angeles B-roll, and then the principal cast was mostly filmed in Los Angeles, and then I went back to New York and I put my comfortable cast and crew in it, and I cut around everything. I mean, the magic of editing. I'd love to do a sit down showing where I'm like, oh, that's Los Angeles, that's New York. You know what I mean? That's Atlanta, that's Poughkeepsie.
Okay. And if there were a scene that you would be able to take from this film, what would it be?
Sure, there's a fun death in that movie with a vacuum, one of those shop vacs, where somebody's brains get sucked out through the back of their head and their whole head collapses. Like I did a whole life cast of a rubber head, so the whole head sucked
Nice.
like Peter
So,
and
uh,
Pat from Spookies.
so after Killer Waves, you did a cameo in Fiendish Fables. How was
Yeah,
that?
that was another Brad Twigg movie. Um, I think we shot that while doing another shoot for something else. So
Okay.
that was one of those quick, like, hey, you're here. Would you do this other movie that I'm doing?
So after Fiendish Fables, you did a TV series selling toys called Graves.
I did, yeah. So another friend of mine from film school started doing like a mini TV series called Graves, and I play like a toy salesman. I'm like a door to door toy salesman. I don't know. It's like a wacky thing. But they had also hired me to make this like animatronic ghoulies type of puppet thing. So
Okay. After the TV series, you went on to play in a movie called Groundhog.
I did, yeah. David Maggett and Matthew Fisher made this movie, Groundhog, and they hired me to come out to Boston. I did a few days there, and then it was like a giant snowstorm when I went, so that was fun. I was like in my hotel, like locked away from a snowstorm, and then they were filming this movie. And they rented like a snow plow to like decapitate somebody or something like that. So it was cool. That was a fun. And Billy Coyne did the effects for that. My buddy Billy, he like rips off my lower jaw. That was fun.
Okay. Cool. After that, you went and did a short film called Insomniac. How was that for you?
I I think that was a voiceover. Somebody had
Yep.
asked me to do a voiceover.
Kurt Kelverson.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was a voiceover. So yeah,
Okay.
it's nice. I mean, people ask me all the time to do cameos and stuff. I love it. You know what I mean? If I could do it, I always say yes. You know what I mean? If it doesn't interfere with something I'm already doing, or I love it. So when people say, "Hey, you want to do a cameo in this?" I'm always like, "Yeah, sure. If I could do it, why not?"
Yep. Uh, moving on to Bloodsucker Jones versus the Creeping Death. I was being involved with that as Zach Kaufman.
Yeah. So it's funny. Zach, uh, Justin, Justin is the director. Uh, he had said, "Can you shoot something?" And then we have this friend Zach Kaufman who prints our T-shirts. Zach and Erica from Atomic Cotton. So I'm playing Zach.
Okay. And how long was the shoot for you there?
I think I was filming for my own film, The Lich, and I had shot like a news segment while I was filming with Melody Pang. She's this great actress. She's like starting to come up and do some stuff. I think she's in some kind of traveling commercial now that's on airplanes. Remember, I was flying somewhere and I was like, "Oh, look, it's Melody." So she's in that. She's in that scene with me. She's like a news reporter, and I talk about seeing a vampire or a bloodsucker. I don't remember.
So after Bloodsucker Jones, you ended up being in a segment called Fong as Rex in the 60 second.
Yeah. So I had done this short film years ago called Gory Tits, and Suffocation actually wrote the theme song for it. And so Fong was like a retitled, edited version of that short film called Gory Tits.
I wonder if it had gone under the original title, what people would have thought.
Well, it actually does. It's called Gory Tits in my film Mind Melters, and so that's the alternate cut of that. So
Okay, so after that you were in a short film called Death in America um, as Rock Henson. How was that for you?
yeah, Death in America was a film I helped produce from Robert Aronson. He directed it. A good friend of mine. He's one of the those priests, the Holy Trinity in Bite School. He's the long blonde haired one.
Okay.
So tragically, his brother died of a heroin overdose, and so it's the story of heroin abuse and stuff like that to kind of get people to stray away from drugs. So
Okay. And after that short film, you were in, and then there were none 2017 as a part.
yeah, so that was another project I had done when I came out to LA. Uh, I like bump into somebody and I think I know them, something like that. It's like a quick cameo thing.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it's kind of like and then kind of like an Agatha Christie kind of a thing,
Right, exactly.
eh? So um, after that, you were in a TV series called All Wrong as a SAS member.
Yeah. So it was a Vice TV show. Um, they, I'm like a sexaholic. You know what I mean? Sex anonymous guy. I'm in a meeting, and I think they shot a few series of the second season, and then they pulled it. So I don't know if it ever aired. I looked for it. I couldn't really find it. So
Gotcha.
the first season was fun, and then I had some close-ups and stuff in it, and I don't think it ever made it.
Okay. After that, you were in like Canimator as a voiceover, I guess. Will
Yeah,
Wilkerson.
yeah, it's like a like a lycanthrope and reanimator smushed together. So I was doing a convention in Florida, and Dustin Hubbard asked me if I could do a cameo in that for Seb Godwin, and I said sure.
Okay. Moving on to The Lich, which is another film that was directed by you. How did you come up with that project?
So Dave Stein is an executive producer on a few of my films, and Dave and I were looking for a project that Dave could star in as a monster, and so I came up with this concept of an undead zombie wizard trying to get his crystal back from these three witches, and I said, Dave, this role is for you, and so that's got E.G. Daly in it, Dottie from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and Tom Sizemore's in that, so it's a fun. Deborah Lamb's in that too, and a whole bunch of other cool cats.
Nice.
It's
Now,
it's like Evil Dead meets The Craft.
now, did you pool for L.A. actors for this one?
So this film was right in the transition of when I was moving out to Los Angeles. So I had only stayed in Los Angeles for 2 weeks filming Killer Waves, and then I went back to New York, and I was like, wow, I hate Los Angeles. Los Angeles people are so flaky, they're unreliable. And then 2 years later, I was like, you know what, I'm going to live there. So while we started filming The Lich in New York and Pennsylvania, it was cool. We used some tannerite, which is like legal explosives and stuff like that, and fired some real AK-47s for the Lich. And then I went to Los Angeles where you can't do any of that stuff. So the movie has some cool action stuff in it. And then we filmed at the Hollywood Cemetery, where I'm sorry, not the Hollywood Cemetery, the Home of Peace Cemetery in Whittier, where Curly from the Three Stooges is buried. And they gave like the whole mausoleum and stuff like that. I've actually used that location for a few different things. So
Nice.
great. Yeah.
So, let's see. If there was a moment that you could take from The Lich, what would it be?
I would probably say it was filming with E.G. Daly because I love the story on how we met. My manager at the time was having a fundraiser for dogs, and I felt somebody behind me. And before I turn around, I go, "Did you grab my ass?" And I turn around, and it's E.G. Daly, and she just loved that moment. She started laughing, and then we became friends from that. And then I said, "Hey, I'm doing this movie with Tom Sizemore. Do you want to be in it?" And she said, "Yeah." And that was it.
Okay, cool. So moving on after that, you were in Parts Unknown, which was directed by Richard Chandler. How was that for you?
Yeah, Richard's a cool guy. I think he's a great actor himself. He's a great director, and I think that was also a voiceover cameo. So,
Okay.
those are nice. You know what I mean? Where I just record something from home, and like I've got a cameo on the band Bloodsucking Zombies from Outer Space's Christmas album, which you could actually hear on Instagram. So I always like doing those, voiceover ones. They're easy.
Nice. So after Parts Unknown, you did something called It Wants Blood.
Yeah, so It Wants Blood is a really fun monster movie. It's in editing limbo right now. So it stars Eric Roberts and Ola Ray from the Thriller music video. Troy Froman from Darkman's in it. And, Steve Railsback from so many of your favorite Steve Railsback movies.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And where did you film that particular film?
Yeah, that's all LA. So last few years, I'm LA based. So
Is there a moment that you could take from it that you would like to remember?
Yeah, I mean, there's a great cult scene with Eric Roberts is in this gold robe. You know what I mean? It's my Brood homage. I love Cronenberg, so it's cool. There, Ola Ray is in this robe, and all these people are chanting Ndoto, which is Swahili for nightmare, and that's the name of the beast. So at
Nice.
least that's what Google Translate says it means. I don't actually speak Swahili, so we'll find out, I'm sure, when the movie drops.
Definitely. So ultimately, after It Wants Blood, you started in the remake of um, Cannibal Hookers. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was really fun. So Donald Farmer hired this great director, Caroline Copo, I think her last name is. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. And she directed this great opening segment where I get my genitalia eaten by cannibal hookers. So I'm like the opening kill for that movie. So I think Trauma actually just picked that up. So I think you can watch it, Trauma on demand. So
Nice.
full circle. I'm in another Trauma movie.
So after Cannibal Hookers, you did Mind Melters. Um,
Yeah. So Mind Melters is a compilation of short films I did before I had made my first feature. So I'd made like 30 or so short films before I had made Hack Job, and that's what Mind Melters is. I'd really wanted to release those for people to see them because I think people should know nothing happens overnight. You know what I mean? It's like,
and a lot of people, especially directors from back in the day, have been doing that.
yeah,
To be honest, lately, so why not?
exactly. That's what I said. Why not?
um, when does that drop? Do you know?
Mind Melters is out now.
Oh, okay. And if you could take a favorite short, what are some of your favorite short films?
So
Mind Melters.
there's one in there called Party Crasher about a robot badger that crashes a party, and I have to fight it with a sledgehammer, and it's got a laser eye. It turns me into dust with eyeballs on top of the dust. It's real cheesy. It like rips off this girl's head, and then it throws the sledgehammer. It crashes into somebody else's head. It's just a silly, violent, wacky short film. And then it's actually got a movie I shot in film school on film. So it's got a 16 millimeter black and white reversal film called Classified, about a guy that gets a brain parasite, and then the big parasite bursts through my face, and then we had this. I had made this like puppet on fishing line for my head, so it's like moving around. It's wacky. It,
Nice. So
David Lynch without any money.
so after Mind Melters, you did and you mentioned this before. You did a sequel to Cool as Hell. How was returning to that film for you?
It was challenging because I had moved to LA, and so a lot of the main characters were still in New York and Florida. Billy Walsh, who played as the demon, moved to Florida, so I had started doing this convention in Florida just to hang out with my friend Billy, and so I had to go to Florida to dress him up as the demon and shoot his scenes, and then Daniel Eisenbraun, who plays Benny, was living in New York, so I had to film his stuff in New York and go back to LA. So, it was cool. Michael Berryman plays the devil in that. He's got a funny cameo. He kind of narrates the whole film, actually. Linnea Quigley's in that, and Phil Anselmo from Pantera's in that. So it's a fun sequel. It's not the movie I wanted to make because I really wanted it to be like an adventure. And so the opening cartoon done by Rob Ulfo was going to be the original story. We're like chased by cannibals, and you know, and then any film you set out to make, I think, always mutates into something else. You know what I mean? For better or for worse. You know what I mean? It takes on a life of its own and grows into something. So
Definitely. Each to me is like its own animal.
yeah, true.
But if there was a moment that you could take from that particular film that you could take with you, what would it be?
I would probably say it was filming with Phil Ansamo from Pantera, because he had done a cameo in Killer Waves, but we had some dialogue, and he throws a punch. You know, he knocks me out with a punch. So we do the, I'm really thirsty. Do you have any fruit punch? And he's like, I got some punch for you.
Nice. So after Cool as Hell 2, you went into the sequel to Catch of the Day 2, You Die at Dawn. Now, is that film finished?
It is finished. It should probably drop this week on streaming on Vimeo, and then it'll probably be in stores next month.
Okay. And how was returning to that storyline for you?
Fun. I mean, it's a buddy cop movie, and so since I moved to Los Angeles, my original partner, Jeffrey Kim, who was actually the first Asian actor in the Men in Black universe, he's got a line in the new Men in Black movie, so that was cool. Jeff's a cool guy, but he lives in New York and I live in LA, so I got Ash Khan to be my co-star in this. And I originally always thought if I was going to do a sequel to Catch of the Day, my partner shouldn't be Asian, he should be Indian. And the original title was Seek and Destroy. So Catch of the Day 2, Seek and Destroy. And I thought it'd be funny, it's me, and then my cop partner has like a turban, and you know what I mean? So that was always the concept for Catch of the Day 2, and that's kind of like what I went for, except he's more dignified and I'm still the, silly cop Rod Davis. So it's fun. John Amplis from Creepshow's in it, and Bushwhacker Luke, and Jake the Snake Roberts returns. And then it's also got the amazing Kreskin in it, which is really cool. So
okay. Now, if there were a moment that you could take from this film, what would it be?
I would say it's a lot of the buddy cop moments. We filmed again in that Home of Peace cemetery, and I'm in like an Iron Sheik kind of costume, pretending to be this foreign dignitary, and my partner doesn't know it's me, and he jumps on top of me, and he's like, "You're not the foreign dignitary," and it's just crazy because we're surrounded by all these like famous dead celebrities. And Al Burke plays the chief of police. He was the guy in The Wedding Singer that goes, "Nobody talks to Billy Idol that way on the plane." So Al Burke's in there, and it's just a wacky moment.
So, ultimately, after Catch of the Day, you did a project called James Balsamo Knows How to Rock. What's that about?
Yeah, so James Balsamo Knows How to Rock is a compilation of music videos from bands that I was in over the years. So, I, just like lots of actors and directors, I too am a musician. And, I'd made all these music videos, and, I had a platform to release them. So I took that as an opportunity and said, here you go. Here's my unsuccessful movie career now in Walmart and Best Buy.
Nice. So after that project, you got involved with Aliens, Clowns, and Geeks.
Yeah, really cool. It's a Richard Elfman movie. Danny Elfman does all these amazing scores, and Richard Elfman's a great filmmaker. He did Forbidden Zone, and so I was really excited to be part of this project. I watch his wife in real life in the movie shoot ping pong balls out of her cooch. And so they had an air compressor, and French Stewart was on set that day. I got a funny French Stewart story. So I'm a big French Stewart fan. Let me just say that, first. I love Third Rock from the Sun, and Love Stinks is a really funny romantic comedy. So French Stewart, there was a lot of younger actors, in the green room, and so French Stewart is like introducing himself to all these people. He's like, "Hello, I'm French Stewart. I'm French Stewart," and nobody really knows who he is because they're younger kids. And so French Stewart comes up to me and he's like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you." And I'm from New York. I like to bust balls, so I go, "The pleasure's all yours." And he was like so taken aback. He's like, "Oh, what?" He walks up to somebody else. He goes, "Oh, it's really nice to meet you." And he's like looking at me. You know what I mean? We took a selfie after. I told him I was a fan and stuff like that. I can't help myself sometimes. I gotta bust balls.
Jeez. But in any case, after now, how long were you on the set there?
I did a day on that. That was a
Okay.
day shoot. So they had rented a studio, I think, somewhere in the outskirts of Los Angeles, and they had a car in there that they were green screening, and Steve Agee was there also, who I had met him. They were doing a Plan 9 from Outer Space reading with Patton Oswalt, and Steve Agee is a great comedian. He's in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and I saw him. I can't help myself. I'm a selfie hound, So I started talking to him, and then it was cool. We were on set together on that Richard Elfman movie. So that's how small Los Angeles really is. It's like you meet somebody one day, and then a few months later, you're on a movie with them.
Definitely. So after Aliens, Clowns, and Geeks, you were in a project called Maggots.
Yeah, so that was actually filmed like years ago back in New York. Neil Machano, I think his name is. He did this movie called Mold, and we had the same distributor at the time. And that's how I became friends with Neil. And Neil had asked me to do a cameo in that, or I asked him. I don't even remember honestly. I probably at the time I might have asked him. And I came out and I did a day shoot on that. They filmed it in some school. So
Okay. And after that particular film, you were in something called Hanukkah as Steve.
yeah, so Hanukkah is a movie I also helped produce, and I'm the director of photography on that film. Um, it's the first Jewish slasher film. How every holiday movie has, Christmas and Easter. There's no Hanukkah until now. And it's Sid Haig's final performance and Dick Miller's final performance. And
And that's so cool. Evan McGarr, he's the director of that House of the Wolfman that
yeah,
it had Ron Chaney, the grandson of Lon Chaney.
yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a beautiful homage to the House of the Wolfman. It's like if you love those classic black and white horror movies, it's spot on.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Evan's a good friend of mine, and he's in a few of my movies. He's in The Lich and Cool as Hell 2, and we had a comic book store together called Zappers. So
Nice. So how long was the shoot for that? Do you know?
Hanukkah was probably about 6 months in total. I mean, we were doing pre-production for a little bit, Um, so, yeah, really, really fun project.
Okay.
Harry Manfredini, I did the score for Friday the 13th, did the music for it,
Okay.
and it's got Caroline Williams. She's Stretch from Texas Chainsaw 2, PJ Souls from Halloween, Charles Fleischer, the voice of Roger Rabbit.
And is it out now?
Yeah, it just came out, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Cool. Going on to casting the net. Evidently, you were a mourner on a TV series called that.
Yeah, so there's a platform called Urban Flicks, which is like Black Netflix. It's like BET Netflix. And so I, my agent gets me these gigs from time to time, and that's one of those.
So after that, you directed the two more sequels to other films, or are you still in production for them? Killer Waves 2 and I Spill Your Guts 2. How
Yes.
was turning to those storylines for you?
Well, I Spill Your Guts 2 is something I've been trying to get off the ground for years. We started production on that. It's got Mark Scheffler from Last House on the Left in it. He's the other rapist. You know, he's not
Not the rapist,
not,
but the other rapist.
right. Well, David Hess is the main rapist. You know what I mean? No one will ever be a better cinematic rapist than David Hess, but Mark is a close number two. So
Okay, and if there was a particular scene that you could take from it that you've done so far, what would it be?
well, we've only actually done one day
Okay.
on I Spill Your Guts 2, and that's that Mark Scheffler scene. So
Okay.
it would be that day. So I had actually, a few years ago, I had shot a whole fake trailer. I blew up a whole car for it. I was trying to raise, like, I don't know, a ridiculous amount of money on uh, Indiegogo, I think, because at the time it was just the start of those, and people were trying to raise $10,000 or something. And I said, if I'm going to try to raise money on a platform like this, why don't we try to raise millions? And so I spent, 10 grand blowing up a car and really tried to, raise millions. And I think we raised like $200. So I was like, oh, I guess I Spill Your Guts 2 will have to wait. And so it's just about that time for me to finish number 2.
Definitely. And Killer Waves too.
Yeah, so Marky Ramone from the Ramones is in that, and that's just about wrapped on principal photography. With the whole quarantine thing, it kind of set production for a little bit of a loop here. But I've been busy editing, and that's how Catch of the Day 2 got finished. So if it wasn't for the quarantine, I don't think I would have finished editing that movie.
Well, and this is about where we're getting into uncharted territory. What you want to say about these projects coming up is your prerogative. So, or if you don't want to say anything, just let me know. So, space aliens and UFOs. What is that project about?
So I'm trying something different with that. It's got people's real alien stories and encounters that they've had. So um, it's kind of like a documentary, Ken Burns kind of feel, with like alien concept drawings and things people have seen, with recanting of their own stories.
Okay, and how far have you gotten on that project?
It's in post production. That should probably be out in a month or so.
Okay, cool. Are you almost satisfied with the results?
Yeah, I mean it's something different. You know what I mean? It's not a horror film. It's kind of like a documentary. I'm always fascinated by those alien stories. You know what I mean? Especially since people have so many different ones, and then strangers sometimes have similar ones without ever hearing anybody else's story. You know what I mean? So I always find that kind of fascinating.
Definitely. So after Space Aliens and UFOs, you were part of a project called Ghoul.
Yeah, I think that's a project that never really got off the ground. They asked me to do it, they announced me, and then it kind of went into limbo. So
Okay. After that, I guess a short film from 2016 just got completed, called Choke.
yeah, so I played a director in that. They had like rented a penthouse suite, and they got these people to give me a suit for they had like rented a suit company or something like that, and I played like a director in a premiere party or something like that.
Okay.
They gave me a beautiful girl to put on my arm, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Next are two projects called Blood Curse: The Haunting of Alicia Stone and Blood Curse 2: Asmodeus Rises.
Yeah, those were another voiceover cameo thing. I think I recorded them both at the same time, and I don't know what the status of those projects is. So I think that's been on there for over a year.
Says post-production, so
Yeah, you know what? Movies are hard to make, man. They really takes a lot to make a movie. So
sometimes it
I say,
takes years. I mean,
yeah,
I mean,
it does.
for I mean, I know I put money into projects that were like 5 years ago, and it's like, you know, it would be nice to see a finished
Yeah,
project.
no, it happens, man.
But in any case, next is a project called The Rideshare Killer.
Yeah, so I did a few days on this movie. It's a slasher giallo kind of film. It's fun. Tuesday night is in it. That's how I got involved with the project. Tuesday was in my film. She's in a few of my films, Catch of the Day and Cool Assault 2, and It Wants Blood. And then she said, you know, they're looking for this guy. Would you want to do it? And I said, sure. For you, Tuesday, anything.
Okay, and after that, that is Burn in Hell and Balsamo Beach.
Yeah, so A Bird in Hell was another movie I'd done with a young filmmaker, Joshua DeBruce. And they hired me to come. I was living in New York. They hired me to come out to New Jersey, I think it was. And I think I did a day on that. Um, uh, that had Ming Chen in it from Comic Book Man, who's also in my film Cool as Hell 2.
Okay.
And I think he finished the movie and then he just never wanted to put it out. So I think that movie's just sitting in a shelf somewhere.
Okay.
And then Balsamo Beach is a party beach movie that's also in production that got held up from quarantine. So hopefully hopefully by the summer I'll be able to wrap up Balsamo Beach.
Okay. And then Brides of Satan.
Brides of Satan. It's Joe Bizarro. That was a fun movie. I play like kind of Mad Max spoof drill hand gang member. Yeah.
And how was that role for you?
Yeah, it was fun. We filmed in this train yard, and we had to like move all these heroin needles from like junkies that like were shooting up the night before on set. So we were like rolling around. It was like, okay, try not to get hepatitis or anything while rolling around on set. And then I'm trying to. Oh, Mindy Robinson, I think is the actress's name. She's she dates some UFC guy. I forget who he is.
Okay.
But anyway, he was there, and I'd never felt fatter in my life. I was eating pizza in front of this like UFC fighter, and he was wearing capris, and I was really surprised. You know what I mean? This like ultimate tough guy was wearing capris, but who's gonna tell him? You know what I mean? Like, so
So after that, you did a short film called Cadillac Respect.
yeah.
How was
So
that?
Troy Froman from Return of the Living Dead Part 2 and Darkman did this cameo. We filmed it and sent it in to this director named Christopher. Nice guy. So
Okay. And then after that, you were in a project called The Once and Future Smash.
yes, Michael J. Epstein uh, did a slasher movie, and then this movie is like a spoof of the actors' lives at like conventions and I play like a fan of these like horror movie guys that made this like slasher film about a football player cannibal who has a broken jaw, so he has to like blend people's fingers and smaller body parts to drink them.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm
And
I'm paraphrasing, of course.
where did you end up filming that?
That we actually filmed in North Carolina.
Okay.
So yeah. Yeah, I know Mike from here in Los Angeles, and then we were doing this convention called Mad Monster Party, and we filmed it there. So I was signing autographs at the convention, and then Michael had a fake table with Michael St. Michael's, who's the Greasy Strangler, and Bill Whedon, who's the bad guy from Sergeant Kabuki Man. I know Michael; he's in my film Cool as Hell 2, and I had just met Bill Whedon. He was such a sweet guy. I had asked him to do a cameo in Catch of the Day 2, so I ended up working, with both of those guys, but they were right there basically filming a movie while I was trying to work the whole weekend. So that was a fun experience.
Interesting. And the last production that I'm going to talk to you about, and then you can, I'll have an area where you can let me know if there are any other projects that I have not aforementioned that you would like to let me know about. So, Hollywood Werewolf. How did you get involved with that project? And that's another one directed by you, correct?
Yep. So Hollywood Werewolf is another movie that's kind of been ongoing for a year or so. I've been filming it here and there, and G. Larry Butler from the Tim and Eric Show's got a co-starring role in that. And it's a fun werewolf movie. It's about a child actor who gets too old for his own gimmick. So while looking for a new gimmick, he gets bit by a werewolf, and then he turns into a Hollywood werewolf, taking Hollywood by storm. And so all the people that said he'd never make it, he eats them.
Okay. And where are you filming this in LA?
Yeah, this is another LA project, and Joe Castro is doing the makeup. Wishmaster 3, and Terror Tunes. It
Nice.
Wants Blood. Yeah, he's doing the werewolf, so should be
Nice.
fun.
And if there was something that you could take from this production so far, what would you take from it?
Well, G. Larry Butler plays like my manager, and he plays the saxophone while the werewolf eats people. So Al Burke, from The Wedding Singer and It Wants Blood, gets eaten by a werewolf while he's playing the saxophone. It's wacky.
Alrighty. Well, so are there any other productions that you are working on that you have not that you would like to tell the audience about that you're working on, or if not, where can we find some of your stuff that you've put out?
Well, I just announced Bite School 2. Joe Castro did the Spat 2.0 for that, which is the talking bat. So Bite School 2 is in production, pre-production now. So hopefully after the quarantine we'll start production. And go to acidbathproductions.com. Get all your cool Acid Bath Productions merchandise, t-shirts, toys, VHS, clamshells, you name it. acidbathproductions.com. Or go to Walmart, Best Buy, Barnes & Noble, Target, FYE. Just type in my name, James Balsamo. I want to be your friend. Find me on Facebook. Add me on Twitter at AcidBathProduct. Find me on the gram, AcidBath Productions, or at James Balsamo.
Definitely. So I appreciate your time coming on and talking about many of the projects that you've been involved with. I know it was time consuming, but
Yeah, my pleasure, man.
I wanted to get a lot of your story. And I mean, a lot of magazines and people don't go through your entire story like my platform does, or So I'm glad that I was able to get to know you a little bit better, at least
Oh
in.
yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
But I think that's all the time that we have for today, folks. So definitely check out Acid Bath Productions. Check out the films that he's in and that he's directed in. A lot of them are pretty fun. I've watched a few of them, gotten a few reviews out of his productions. So I would definitely recommend that you see them, even if you don't like them, at least for the interesting cameos that you know that people in horror and people in music have been in. So, so thank you for your time, and I appreciate you coming on with me, man.
Thanks, brother.
Alrighty, well, you have a good afternoon, and ladies and gentlemen, have a good evening, morning, or afternoon wherever you are. Thank you for listening. If you are out there, so thank you so much. Stay tuned for more. I'll definitely be having more interviews this week, so stay tuned for some of that. And tomorrow night, don't forget to tune in to this channel. We're going to be talking about some interesting caveman-like movies with the Inside Movies Galore crew. So with Quest for Fire, and before that, Pathfinder. So stay tuned for that tomorrow night. So thank you. Enjoy your evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see you